www.bayhillnews.net is the parent body of Bay Hill News Network. We do Facebook Live for church service, funeral service, lecture, sporting activity. For more contact at bayhillnewsnetwork@gmail.com or call 1784-529-8340.
Great news! Spectra Plus is now rolling out internet and TV services in St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yes, better service and better prices from the new and improved Spectra Plus. Spectra Plus TV plans for $59.99 per month, VAT included. Adult TV 3 channels plus $29.99. For more information, call 1784-534-2551 or 1784-532-2501. Fast, reliable broadband and television services for your home or business. Spectra Plus TV, internet, better. We at BayHillNews.net are doing our part in helping fans and followers of our network. For example, we went up to Sandy Bay and helped with the cleaning of houses inside, outside, and the roofs. We want to do more. We can do more if you help us to help others. Kindly make your donation to Noel and Marvin Thomas at 1-784-496-4805. That's 1-784-496-4805 or Montgomery Cupid at 1-784-529-8340. That's 1-784-529-8340. Thanks for your support. Ship your barrels and household effects to St. Vincent and the Grenadines with SVG Direct. Jumbo barrels $70, medium $60, and small $50. We ship anything, name it, we ship it. Vehicles and more. Local agent, Adams Customs and Shipping Agency. 3rd floor, Baines Building, Kingstown, SVG. Telephone 1784-458-1328. In Canada, contact Michael 647-569-3285. Jumbie 647-657-7362. Remember, it's free pickup at your convenience 7 days per week anywhere in the Greater Toronto area with SVG Direct. Welcome to Nice International Group of Companies. We provide online shopping, air shipping to SVG and the entire Caribbean via Amerijet and FedEx, ocean shipping throughout the entire Caribbean, and door-to-door delivery from Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, and New York to SVG via air and sea. Locations Boston and New York, USA, and Camden Park, SVG. At Nice International, you are family and friend, not a customer. So contact us today. Nice International Logistics LLC for shipping, packaging, and moving. 2110 Newkirk Avenue, Apartment 6A, Brooklyn, New York. Telephone 1347-500-9142 or 1617-594-2283 or email NYEESINTSHIPPM@gmail.com. Remember, it's Nice International for shipping, packaging, and moving.
St. Vincent, my homeland.
On April the 9th, 2021, La Soufrière volcano in St. Vincent and the Grenadines violently erupted, and the words of Black Stalin came flowing through.
For we country nation, it's got its power, so our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want you always remember.
My name is Jim Lewis, President of St. Vincent and the Grenadines Association, Toronto, Inc., and I encourage you to donate generously.
I love you, St. Vincent, me sweet little island, St. Vincent.
Night Radio's Callaloo presents Just Another Look. Just Another Look is an innovative, exciting, albeit decidedly provocative, and yes, certainly controversial socio-political analysis of issues of a local, regional, and international nature. Just Another Look is heard only on Night Radio. First aired on Saturdays at 6 p.m. with repeat broadcasts on Sundays at 9 p.m. You can catch us on the World Wide Web, www.nightradio.info. You can also catch us Facebook and YouTube. I am, of course, Keith Joseph. Today, dear friends, is Saturday. It is the 15th day of May, 2021. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another edition of your favorite program, Just Another Look. We want to focus much of our attention today, dear friends, on the issue of morality. Really, we are saying to you that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is facing a morality dilemma. For the past several years, morality has been one of the recurring themes of our program, Just Another Look. And that is so because we recognize the significant decline in adherence to morals, the devaluing of morals in our society, most importantly, by our leadership. Leadership in different spheres of life in St. Vincent and the Grenadines have shown an almost annoying disregard and disrespect for morals. So in truth and in fact, this country is currently, and has been for a long time, caught up in the throes of a major dilemma, a morality dilemma, a morality crisis. We say without fear of contradiction that the Vincentian morality dilemma is all the more disturbing, all the more disconcerting, because it begins at the very top. Our leaders continue to leave the majority of our population, a population that is still possessive of a sense of decency. Our leaders leave the majority of our people decidedly bothered at the growing immorality being consistently displayed in our country. Harry Claw defines public morality. Quote, an ethic of decency or civility, not simply rights and liberties. An ethic of decency or civility which is public in the sense that it is generally acknowledged as requisite to the well-being of the community as such, and is therefore recognized in public policy and periodically at least supported by the law. Public morality. And just like we have been saying for some time, Claw asks the question whether or not public morality is dead. Because when we look at different societies around the world, we are seeing that rapid degradation of any sense of morality, particularly among leaders in different parts of the world. And that includes, unfortunately, in many of our societies, religious leaders, which poses a particular problem in societies that are predominantly Christian in nature. Because people expect that our religious leaders at least would lead by example and not allow themselves to fall prey to the behavior they are seeing among their political leaders, among their politicians. Morality is dead. Clause says, and we quote, "It is maintained that morality is the business of churches and religious beliefs, not of law and government." That is how some people see it. But he argues, of course, public morality has historically been supported or encouraged by religion. And what is hard put to envision its survival if religious beliefs, especially biblically oriented beliefs, were to disappear from among us. But two distinctions have to be kept in mind here. While public morality is bolstered when its tenets correspond with religious ethics, it does not depend on religion for its validity or purpose. Public morality serves our civic interests, and the case for it has to be made by rational argument about civic interests. So we ought not to be only talking about morality, behavioral standards, good example in terms of our behavior in society, only because we have religious faith or we hold on to some religious beliefs. It is a matter of how we live generally in the society. So we expect that people would strive for high moral standards. But what we have witnessed is at the very highest level in our society, there is an approach that suggests morality does not matter to us. We live and we do as we please. It was once said that Caribbean artists out of Barbados coming home, and people talked about morality, had dress codes and behavior, etc. And her response was, "I never asked any of you to make me your role model. I never asked any of you to make me your role model." So you're wrong in a sense. That's what she essentially, that translates into saying, you're wrong if somehow you wanted me to be your role model in terms of the way I behave. I choose to live how I wish to live. And none of you has any right to suggest otherwise. But you wonder if these people have families, if they have children, and if they would like their children to grow up in exactly that same mode of behaving. We are seeing here a pattern of behavior among those who believe that they possess power. And you've seen them intervene and interject when it suits their pride and purposes, to be able to sort of back up one another. So St. Vincent and the Grenadines is in a moral crisis. And unfortunately, there is not a sufficient coordination, collaboration, cooperation among religious leaders so that they can in fact engage in a way of analyzing our society and its loss of morality, the decline in family values, in a coordinated way to impact the society. The religious leadership in this country is itself caught up in the throes of its own set of crises, not the least of which may be morality. They're divided also along political party lines. Imagine that. The religion that we preach, that talks about peace and unity, that talks about love conquering all, is as divisive in St. Vincent and the Grenadines as is politics. Because increasingly, the desire for mammon, the desire for wealth, creates a big problem as much for religious leaders as it does for the rest of our society. Listeners have heard us on Just Another Look insist that over the past several years, and in particular over the last 20 years, we have unfortunately witnessed the systematic decline in moral standards of behavior in our society. And you know what is worse about it? It's the silence of too many of our members of society. We see it for what it is, and yet we are prepared to turn a blind eye because we believe that somehow if we align ourselves with those who lead, we are aware that they don't share the spoils equitably. Because they need to own the jobs too. And the minute they go down that road, you have an understanding of the problems that we face. There has, dear friends, and continues to be in St. Vincent and the Grenadines mountains of evidence of moral decay at almost every level of our society. But most disturbingly, amongst those who lead our institutions. Life is itself temporary. And therefore, whatever power and access to power and wealth you may hoard up now, remember, you will leave it all. Store up your treasure where it lasts forever. That is not mammon. That is not mammon. So we're prepared to sell our souls on the altar of political expediency because it allows us to look good. It allows us to lord it over others. It allows us to have a weapon. It allows us to be able to tell others without fear that if I was here, if I were in this position and I had my weapon with me, you would not be alive. It allows us to tell others that. It allows us to tell others, you know, we can shoot off a firearm in the middle of a crowd and no one asks the question, does he have a firearm? And nobody bothers to answer it. The law does not pay any attention to it. Just as the law did not raise any issues with the man who would be king when he made that threat on air about Brian Paper Alexander. We have lost our sense of morality. We have lost our sense of decency. Things are right or wrong in today's Vincentian society based on what color of the political spectrum you are. Isn't that unfortunate? How do our teachers, our lawyers, our preachers, our politicians live with themselves knowing that they are deliberately disenfranchising others in the name of power? How do you feel when you look at your own children and knowing that you are making their lives easier at the expense of others? Where is our sense of morality? Where is our sense of right and wrong in our society? We at Just Another Look have long insisted that at the beginning of the term of office of the Unity Labour Party in 2001, we were told several nice sounding things. We were told that we were ushering in a new dispensation. And after 20 years, we are yet to know precisely what is the content of that new dispensation, beyond the fact that you will own the jobs too. What is that new dispensation? We were also told that we will be building a consultative democracy. We were told that we were establishing a contract with civil society. We were told that we will have integrity legislation. Where have all those projects gone? There is no consultative democracy in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is the ULP way or no way. And whereas the ULP came in on the coattails of the trade unions that took to the streets in April, May of 2000, on the coattails, if not on the backs of the trade union movement and of street protests, somehow, when they were afraid to lay claim to the ownership of the protest during that particular time, they're now today, and since then, since they took office in 2001, talking about a roadblock revolution. They didn't call any roadblock revolution. They hid behind the odd thing in 2000. They did not start the process. They benefited from it. They rode the backs of the trade union movement and the people of the trade union who took to the streets, and they rode the backs of that. And suddenly, when they got to Grenada and walking the Grand Beach Accord, the two leaders who walked on the beach, here's Michel and Ralph Gonzalez. Where were the trade union and the odd thing on whose backs they rode? Where were they? And where are they today? Happily, we have the leadership of the Police Welfare Association, the current leadership of the Public Service Union, the current leadership of the Teachers Union, who have an understanding that their responsibility as trade union leaders has nothing to do with political patronage. has nothing to do with whose side you're on in political terms, but to defend the right, to promote and defend the rights of the members of their unions. The other two unions, wishy-washy, 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 and apparently playing musical chairs. That is how fragmented our society has become. Shamelessly, there's no trade union congress. And we understand why, because politics is the order of the day for some of our trade unions. The new dispensation since 2001 can be characterized by an absence of morality. Oftentimes you hear it said, there is a new morality under the new dispensation. And what is that morality? Just another always insists. It is the absence of any sense of morality. That is the new morality that is projected for us in our society today. And far too many of our people have allowed themselves to join the line, going down along this path, because it affords you some political patronage. The members of our lower classes in this society, for all the talk of an education revolution, they understand very clearly that if you want a job under this new dispensation, show up in the party colors. So the simple task of cleaning the roads and the drains around the country, where those jobs are offered ever so often, look for yourselves on any given day at the number of them who feel it essential, necessary for them to identify with the colors of the ruling party. Because their understanding is those are the conditions that gave rise to the little pittance that they're getting, to the access to that pittance. It is the same with just about every aspect of life in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You hear the talk about those who are benefiting from the relief packages, the COVID relief packages. We await the accountability of the disbursement of those relief packages. We probably will wait in vain. Why are we afraid of being able to put in the newspapers, as we do ever so often in some areas, the names of all those who have benefited and the quantum of their benefits? Let people see for themselves and determine whether or not this was also based on political partisanship. The relief assistance that we are going to get and disburse as a consequence of the volcanic eruption published the names of all of the recipients. Publish the quantities that they have been provided with, so that there is public accountability. And let us see whether or not that too becomes a part and parcel of the political partisanship that we have seen for the last 20 years in this country. We have had good cause over the years to highlight this country's moral decay in an effort to have our listeners focus on what is happening around them. To be able to call a spade, to be able to use your inalienable right, to ask questions, to pose challenges, to engage in critical thinking, and to let your voice be heard on issues affecting the lives of Vincentians. Nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can take that away from you. You cannot continue to turn a blind eye to what is happening around you, particularly the growth of immorality. We cannot, on the one hand, boast of our religious faith and of our being Christians and encourage and engage in immorality. What we have witnessed over the past several years has been a sort of silence. A silence that imposes itself on our people and challenges our faith, challenges our decency, and challenges the core of our humanity. And we ask ourselves, why as a Vincentian people have we allowed moral decay in our midst to go unchallenged? Why have we given rise and support to immorality, particularly among our leadership? The gift of gab does not change that reality. We ought to be able to move away the clutter and to see the emptiness, the barrenness, the moral decay in what is put before us as a way of life. Why have we allowed ourselves to be conned, to be tricked into believing that the offering of trinkets, instead of adequately addressing the fulsome needs of our Vincentian people and engaging them in the decision-making process, that is unacceptable approach? We continue to be tricked over and over and over again. Believing that those whom we elect are supposed to lead us regardless. We continue to remind listeners that as a lecturer in political economy, and as someone who has been invited because of his academic credentials to speak on issues relating to governance across the region for years, there are certain fundamental ideas that Gonzalez suggested were necessary if we wanted to form transformative governments in the region. And he may want to tell you now that some of those ideas may have been in the proposed constitution. And like the late Pierre, lament how much he was upset at the fact that the populace of this country rejected that constitution. Because in the mix of the Constitution were a lot of things that people did not like and could not have approved. But for years as a lecturer and a political activist, he has been advocating the inclusion of a right of recall for parliamentarians. That if the people in your constituency find you are coming up short, that they ought to have the right to recall you. You didn't hear about that after 2001, really? Yeah? They didn't want that. The same way, we got a promise of integrity legislation and it hasn't gone anywhere after 20 years. It cannot yet reach to the top of his legislative agenda. We say political mamadism. The idea of fixed terms for elected officials, that too has gone AWOL. That too has gone AWOL. A fixed date for elections, that too has gone AWOL. You think any government really, any party in power really wants to move from a situation as we have now under our constitution, where you can call elections whenever you deem it most favorable to your party? You see, we get these flippity-flopping. It's the same way that you cannot get from the current leadership precisely what is your stance on the Caribbean Court of Appeal. And while you're not really taking a stance on the Caribbean Court of Appeal, you're flippity-flopping. And that's why we can get the nonsensical comments when some cases reach the public domain. Utter rubbish. But it is supposed to be supported because of who says it. And because from time to time you can remind people that you did some law. Well, there are people who did law who committed crimes, major crimes. So it's not as if every lawyer is sufficiently trustworthy. You've had good examples in this country of how lawyers behave. We've had some totally disenfranchised. We have had others who should have been disenfranchised, but who would give them a slap on the wrist. That's how we've been behaving. Because we have allowed immorality to hold sway in our society. Vincentians have remained silent for far too long. There is an awakening that has the current leadership scared. They're not scared about guns. They're scared about ideas. They're scared about people having used their education to come to an understanding that you need to reject immorality, that you need to promote accountability and transparency in all aspects of governance. That's their biggest fear. The fear of that demand from an increasing number of Vincentians for transparency and accountability. Vincentians have remained quiet for far too long. Vincentians remain silent. As we watch the accusation of rape of by a prime minister, leveled at a prime minister, and we watch how quickly that matter was nulliprossed in the nation, we remain silent. We remain silent. Why? So that the Michelle Andrews incident comes out. Of course it is a blemish on our politics. It is a blemish on any prime minister who finds himself being so accused. But to have the system determined very early, we're nulliprossing this. And that becomes a pattern of behavior, so much so that people start labeling the then Director of Public Prosecution Mr. Nullipross. Vincentians have remained silent when we got the political spin and the middle finger and the p-hole. They remained silent. They remained silent when we started hearing in political terms of a choice between Barabbas and Jesus. They remained silent when we heard of the analogy of who George Bush would recognize if he comes in the middle of the night and certain personalities were sitting together. These are not incidents to be taken lightly, dear listeners. They were said with clear intentions. If you choose not to understand the intent, then you have a major problem. It is the persistent sweeping of our historical legacies under the carpet that is now beginning to rent the carpet asunder. It is the pretense that we have no racism in this country that leaves us as blinded as we are. Vincentians remained silent. When in January 2011, a few weeks after the elections of 2010, Prime Minister took up valuable time in the nation's parliament trying to explain some plot to assassinate him. Just another look says maybe he has a complex, a martyrdom complex of some sort. Because we said that nobody wants to kill you, Ro. Because you're doing a good job by yourself, on yourself. Nobody wants to kill you. Not in St. Vincent, any kind of thing. People want to face you and to ask you square off, to tell us answers to important questions that relate to transparency and accountability, that allows for fairness. That's what they want to ask you. They have a lot of questions to ask you. Nobody wants to kill you. Nobody wants to kill you. But he stood up in Parliament, taking valuable time to weave a story. And one wondered as he rambled on whether this was the intellectual that we once knew. Because the story was about someone being arrested and then they found a gun and then they didn't find a gun and then there was a phone and then they didn't find the phone. All sorts of cockamamie nonsense. And he stood there and said it with a straight face. And the Vincentians remained silent. Too many Vincentians remained silent when the entire government side remained in Parliament and looked at how the police forces treated their fellow parliamentarians who were on the other side. So much so that Daniel Cummins has had to undergo back surgery of a very sensitive nature. But nobody is concerned about that from the government side because the Prime Minister's side wife has had to undergo surgery, very sensitive surgery, on her spine, just like Cummins. But it is important to remind the nation of the impact that is having on the Prime Minister and the conduct of his responsibilities as leader of this country's government. But don't think about Cummins, who the government forces flung down the stairs. In a peaceful democracy that we normally have, Prime Minister and his team looked at that and has not shown any duty of care for Cummins. or his family. But he wants us to shed a tear with you on the challenges that you face. And people will do that. And people will pray for you and your wife. But they will also pray for Daniel Cummins and his wife. Because they have an understanding of what constitutes decency. That makes a difference. But they remain silent on that issue. And the consistency with the behavior is such that we are led to believe that had Cummins died when he was flung down the steps, or had he died on the operating table, we would still have remained silent. That is what we have become as a people. That is what we have become as a people. Vincentians have remained silent, or too silent, on the Yogi Farrell affair. One of the comments that were made from time to time by the Prime Minister and one of his sons. But in those interactions and those interventions, they said nothing about the relationship between the other son and Yogi Farrell. So you addressed that which was important to you and which you thought important to bring in the public domain. But the rest you left aside. So were we to believe that Yogi Farrell was a mad woman? You didn't want to bring the whole truth before the nation? Don't bring part of it, bring the whole thing. Let people know that there was a relationship or there wasn't. But as it turned out, the Vincentian electorate in your son's constituency sent him a strong message on the importance of their voting rights. Even as they remained silent vocally, they were very vociferous in the use of the vote to send a message not just to your son, but to you as the leader of the party. It must have shocked you to the core. And it must have shocked your son, because not too long before that, he was saying that he had done so much for his constituency, he feel he could have beat his chest. Well, the people beat him like a drum. And it must have sent shockwaves through the family. Because as far as they were concerned, the only people who got hurt, was Camilo, the wife, and the child. Yogi was inconsequential. Inconsequential. Yeah? And we have not been able really to come to terms with the fact that a senior magistrate could have asked her to plead, and only after she had done so to determine that she was unfit to plead. And where we send her? To our mental hospital. We know that institution, We sent her to the mental hospital. Nobody felt there was anything wrong about that. We remained far too silent on that issue. It is an issue of morality. But the key players attempted to suggest there ain't nothing moral in this. This is a straight line thing. It wasn't. it was an issue of morality. You see, dear friends, Vincentians have remained silent on far too many issues. You remember, we were served notice. We were served notice very early. When we heard the comment, they could go to whatever court they want. But when they finish, they still have to come back to Papa. What is your interpretation of that? Because our interpretation is that there is a suggestion here that Papa is higher than the nation's courts. It's higher than whatever court they want to go to. But that statement rang hollow when the Privy Council ruled on the James Mitchell situation. There has as yet been no accountability and transparency in this nation for that whole Otley Hall inquiry. What did it cost us at the time that it was stopped? Why was it stopped? Was it because whoever wanted to start it in the first place thought that it was about capturing Mitchell? And perhaps Arnhem Eustace? Well, very early you realized Eustace didn't have anything to do with that, so you had to ignore that fact. But did the inquiry stop because they ruled that the chairman should recuse himself because of the appearance of bias in his interim report? So you replace the chairman and you finish the inquiry. But the fact that we did not continue the inquiry begs the question, what exactly was the intent in establishing the inquiry in the first place? Because if the intent was to get at the truth, we would have completed the inquiry. But the inquiry fizzled out. You heard nothing about the Otley Hall inquiry subsequent to the Privy Council ruling on the James Mitchell appeal. That's it. That's it. And Vincentians remained quiet because we ought really to have asked who is accounting for the financial expenses that have been incurred in pursuit of what? How much money did we spend and to whom? And therefore, to ask the government to account publicly for the rationale for starting the inquiry in the first place and the rationale for allowing it to fizzle out. No one had the decency to come back to the Vincentian populace whose taxpayers' dollars were paying for the inquiry to say what happened. So your government starts an inquiry and it ends with the Privy Council ruling on an interim report. So we never got to a final report. It just dropped like a hot potato. And that is presented to us as good governance. That is an example of good governance. So when people go around to schools or go around the region to talk about governance, to talk about political administration, do not ever mention the word transparency and accountability. Do not mention the role of civil society. Do not mention the concept of a consultative democracy. And certainly never mention the concept of integrity legislation. All poppycock. All political mamagism. all fanciful thinking. That is our society. And Vincentians are becoming increasingly annoyed and frustrated. And perhaps they're reaching the point where they need to stop being silent. In one instance after another, Vincentians are left pondering as to what has happened to our sense of morality. What has happened to our sense of decency? From the time we had situations where people were castigated, labeled all sorts of things, dirty donkey, dirty stinking dog, minority wrong, dishonest and malignant, etc., etc. And everybody remains silent. You know, Gonzalez has been making comments almost willy-nilly on all sorts of issues. But Jomo Thomas and Kebaka's Matisse have been very, very vocal. And perhaps they're pointing a path for the average Vincentian to think about more critically, more deliberately. And they have risen to challenge Gonzalez on his own terms. And he finds himself in a bit of a quandary. You see, in the latest incident involving a deputy speaker of the House who's a senator and a deputy director of public prosecutions, two people in critical positions in this country's administration. This latest incident is a case in point. That's why we talk about morality, you know. Because when this hit the public domain, it was already more than a week old. So you wonder why it was not in the public domain earlier. And of course, in our previous edition of Just Another Look, first aired on the 8th of May, we addressed Gonzalez's comments. And we highlighted the business of him more or less telling people, shut up. Because what he heard, what he read, led him to make those comments. And we raised questions about his comments. And to add insult to injury, we also made reference to a comment by the Commissioner of Police, where he more or less said that from what he read and what he was hearing, he knew the comments were politically motivated. He must be a magician. But Jomo Thomas responded immediately. And in Eyewitness News, dated 7th May, Thomas wrote in his opinion piece, in part, quote, Gonzalez, who called on citizens to be calm and patient, disregarded his advice, and in essence said, I alone must be allowed to talk on the issue. Anyone else who speaks must be careful they don't run afoul of the defamation laws. And he quotes from Gonzalez, don't believe and accept as fact some of the outlandish things you have heard about Senator Morgan. From what I have been told, keep your mouth shut. And Thomas then says, then he went off his rail. Then he went off his rail. And he quotes Gonzalez again. Partisan politics is a hell of a thing. If the shoe was on the other foot, if it was an NDP woman, NDP parliamentarian or high party official, you know how this would have spun. Thomas then says, in law, it is said, he who frames the argument wins the case. Gonzalez's comments are intended to do just that. He offers up a theory of the case. He claimed he was not pronouncing on something under investigation, and I will be irresponsible to do so, yet he goes on to pronounce. And he quotes Gonzalez, there are two women. In this country, there's a lot of violence against women. It's a good thing to see somebody standing up to defend women. But no, it becomes all kind of pejorative words being used to describe somebody. End of quote. But Eyewitness News has Jomo's opinion continuing. Essentially, Gonzalez framed the case before the investigation is completed as one about the defense of women, resisting violence against women. The defense of another is a classic defense. It's closely related to self-defense. What else is left for the police and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution to investigate? Will it ever get to the court after Gonzalez, the mighty explainer, improperly injected himself? All that is left for the accused is to maintain a dignified silence. Gonzalez's attempt to wrap a protective shield around Morgan may cause her to lose the battle for public opinion, as Camilo did 3 years ago. End of quote. It's amazing, eh? Gonzalez is talking about all kinds of pejorative words being used to describe somebody. A dirty, stinking dog was how Bassey Alexander was once described. People associated with the Tobago Keys, the defense of the Tobago Keys. A group of concerned persons, friends of the Tobago Keys, were once described as dishonest and malignant. People have been referred to as being of the lowest common denominator, possessive of a sort of learned helplessness, minority wrongs, and the list goes on and on and on. But he dares to say that people are using all kinds of pejorative words to describe somebody. Where is the moral authority for Gonzalez to dare to do such a thing? Where is it? But it is bothersome that Thomas takes the fight to Gonzalez. You intervene, sir. You are making a case. An investigation is taking place, and you are framing things that you said you were not going to pronounce on, but you're pronouncing anyway. That old style approach that you've seen in the court of law time and time again. That old outdated system. I'm not saying anything, but I'm saying anyhow. I'm not pronouncing on something, but I'm pronouncing anyhow. Intentions have to stop being silent on these issues. These are issues of morality. How dare you claim not to be pronouncing on it, yet pronounce on it? Or are we to interpret what you are saying as not being a pronouncement on the matter that is before the court? And that is why Thomas asked, what else is left for the police and the office of the DPP to investigate? And will the matter ever get to court now that Gonzalez has, according to Jomo, quote unquote, improperly injected himself? That is what we're talking about here. Apply your critical thinking skills and understand what is happening in our society. Thomas, Jomo, is actually throwing down the gauntlet yet again to Gonzalez, whom he dubs, quote unquote, the mighty explainer. Gonzalez, from our vantage point, addressed another loop. Must be well aware of what he is trying to do with the comments he made about the case. And we say this because he was also well aware of what he was trying to do when he spoke on the Yogi Farrell matter. And we ask why. Is his interjection morally acceptable? Because the case involves morality. It involves morality. And so Vincentians have to look at this matter very closely and follow how this one plays out because of all who are involved. The Prime Minister is well aware of what he was trying to do. As Prime Minister, a lawyer, an academic, Gonzalez must be aware of the influence he wields. And so the average Vincentian is left pondering Gonzalez's intent each time something like this occurs. And the average Vincentian must be concerned whether the issue of morality and ethics is involved. But you see, que Bacchus Baptiste is referenced in Eyewitness News dated 11 May 2021. And she was commenting on Gonzalez's comments with regard to the Morgan incident. And we quoted part. This is K. Bacchus Baptiste. Quote, I really think he should just shut his mouth. Because every time he opens his mouth, he makes it worse for his cause, whatever his cause is in this matter. Yeah? Eyewitness News says, she said, referring to Bacchus Baptiste, that the effects of the Prime Minister's comments are the same as during the Yogi Farrell scandal. Yeah? When a former model alleged that she had been involved in an intimate relationship with the Prime Minister's son, Finance Minister and East St. George MP, Camilo Gonzalez. The younger Gonzalez has denied the allegation which Farrell made after she was charged with calling his wife whatever. Bacchus is quoted, quote, "I remember making the statement long time ago with the Yugi matter when he started talking about going and whisper in the magistrate's ear and what the magistrate should do. Every time he opened his mouth, he made it worse. And I don't know why he keeps opening his mouth and speaking, because I don't know if he thinks that he can bamboozle people, frighten them into shut him up or whatever it is. But I just advise that the Prime Minister should just stop talking on this matter, except it is to say pending the investigation. He's going to ask the Senator to step aside. He should just say nothing else and let justice take its course." End of quote. You see, sometimes it is better to shut up. You know, old people, we always use old people. Old people have a saying. It is better to shut up and let people think you're a fool than to open your mouth and let them know for sure. Right? Who the cap fit, let them wear it. It is better to shut up and let people think you're a fool than to open your mouth and let them know for sure. Now, Opposition Leader Godwin Friday took a principled stance on morality in the last sitting of Parliament. The browbeating and the back and forth and the seesawing was about the rules of the House. And Friday's response was about morality. You know, there's a calypso called How We Go Look. How It Go Look. We have a lot of international guests here helping with the Soufriere rehabilitation and relief. They're here. How it looked. While people were talking about how it looked for the tit-for-tat in Parliament, they forget that it's people who are here reading the same things we are reading. So they would have read with interest the issue involving the Deputy Speaker of the House, the Deputy Director of Public Prosecution, and the shooting of a man. They would have read that. They would have read how long before it got into the public domain. They would have read how long it takes for an investigation to start. They would have read what the Prime Minister said and what the Commissioner of Police said. So what it is we mean, we wonder how people are looking at us. What do we mean by that? The people are here. They're in the midst of our society. They must be in awe the same way we are in awe at the comments of the Prime Minister in a democratic system. They must know. They're living in our society for however long. And they're reading, they're learning what is happening and what is our quote-unquote political culture. And therefore they're in a position to make a judgment call on what happened in Parliament the other day. You worried about how it's going to look now to the outside world. So because we are in volcanic relief phase, we must throw all sense of morality through the window. Is that what you're asking us? We must be concerned as to how the fight for justice and morality is looked at by the outside world. The issue is one of morality. Does someone with this kind of investigation going on deserve to sit in our legislature? or should that person be automatically suspended until such time as the investigation is completed? Under the rules of the house, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't that. Yeah, that is true. But how do you bring the issue of the morality of that particular incident under investigation to bear on governance? What are the requirements of good governance? We talk about the extent to which morality may find itself enshrined in law. We know for sure morality is associated with religion. But morality is an integral part of who we are as a people and what shapes our culture. So we can find that, yes, under the rules of the house, this, that, and the other, and I have ruled and I have ruled. All of that is fine. At the end of the day, where do we place morality? What value have we placed on morality? You could apply the rules of the house if everybody get up and walk out and say, okay, if you miss X number of sessions of parliament, and we could call parliament more frequently to make sure we get them out. We could throw them all out of the house. We ask it. The rules of the house allow them to put people out of parliament. But did the rules of the house allow for them to be flung down the stairs of the parliament building? The rules of the house is not in any way responsible for the damage caused to Cummins back. The rules of the house doesn't allow for covering the expenses associated with his life-threatening surgery. No? The rules of the house don't speak. You see, because we can parcel segments of society, we can parcel segments of life, because we have the power so to do. And we can hide behind rules and regulations. But we can't hide from issues of morality. We can't hide from issues of morality. So we could sweep all these things under the carpet, and we can pretend that they're not important because there are rules governing the conduct in Parliament. But why should you be sitting in the nation's legislative arm when under our country's laws, Constitution, you are under investigation for what can be a very, very serious crime? Whither morality is envisioned and for Friday and his party, it was an issue and remains an issue of morality. Thereby hangs a tale. You know, just as was the case when Eustace et al. Were ejected from the house some years ago, they were quick to call in the security forces because that's under the rules of the house. Under the rules of the house, we can have the security forces come to move you. We could get you to move. We could put you out the house. Right? But this time the godfather of protest was absent. That he may well be learning that he does not have a monopoly on protest. You do not have a monopoly on protest. And what you may do now, close down radio stations, close down media houses. What are you going to do? Create a new daily show so that you can expound on your perception of just about everything and perhaps attempt to control the society that way. Vincentians have reached a point where their level of frustration at the way in which this country has inadequately addressed the triple crises of COVID-19, dengue, and Mama Supre, that it's not possible to get them to remain silent much longer. You see, the response of the security forces was so much in contrast Tuesday as it was at the time of Easter Sunday. Because Mitchell did not bring out any whole set of security forces to lock up anybody during the protestations of 2000. But the godfather of protest and his administration, the minute anything looks like it's going to be a little bit of a problem, bring them out, man, bring them out, because they're really my forces. Bring them out, bring them out. That is why the stance adopted by the Police Welfare Association, in tandem with the Public Service Union and the Teachers Union, they have come as a shock when together they took a stance on the vaccination issue. Where were the other unions? Well, you can't call them unions. The other things. Where were they? Oh, of course, they are lining up behind the administration. The three unions got to this. Remember, a Labour government has not yet found a way of addressing the LIAT workers. On the eve of the Suve eruption, the nation was told there are challenges and we may not be able to meet wages and salaries of the government employees in short order. On the eve of the Suve eruption. And this is the same administration that only in October, November of last year, just a few months, challenged the veracity of the poverty assessment report which was leaked. We're doing well, don't worry with that. Don't take that on. But just a few months down the road, you're telling the nation, it looks as though the way things are going, you can't meet the wages and salaries of the teacher. What else you have to tell us that you didn't tell us then? The issue of transparency and accountability cannot be removed from the issue of morality in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There is seeming fear and incredible cowardice on the part of the current ruling regime in this country. It is that fear and that cowardice that seems to compel them to have the security forces rush to protect them, apparently largely from themselves and their own intransigencies. Not protecting them from anybody else. Nobody wants to do them anything. What people want from them is the truth. What people want from them is accountability and transparency. They want to hurt you. They don't want to hurt you. But the old people say, do so ain't like so. Do so ain't like so. And Jomo Thomas headed his opinion piece of the 7th of May saying, do as I say, but not as I do. Do as I say, but not as I do. You see, while some of our leaders may boast of being populist in nature, the evidence on the ground proves otherwise. Gonzales has long since lost that personal popularity that we once had. The charisma has long since lost its luster. What we are seeing may well be interpreted by some as an apparent desire for a one-party state. Others may suggest that we may be moving towards a police state. But there was one part of Tuesday's incident where NDP Senator and the lawyer himself, Israel Bruce, stood toe-to-toe with the nation's Commissioner of Police. Toe-to-toe. Telling the Commissioner of Police, you have limitations too, essentially. There are things that you can't do. But that toe-to-toe encounter may well be a foreboding. It may well be reflective of the new response that is coming from the opposition. And it may be sending a signal to Gonzalez and his Unity Labour Party, do not take the organization for granted. Because in the same vein that Friday got up and said to Gonzalez, sit down. You think you're a bad boy? Sit down. The young people of this country took it and ran with it and created all sorts of minds. That's still on social media. Indicative of a changing tone in this country's politics. Similarly, that clip of Israel Bruce standing toe-to-toe with the Commissioner of Police is going to be taken by the young people of this country as an important phase in the transformation of the way in which opposition parliamentarians are beginning to respond. For too long, the ruling regime has taken the opposition for granted. Issues of morality, transparency, accountability are becoming increasingly important in the national political discourse. Gonzalez can no longer wave a magic wand, and everything will be as he wishes it to be. There are too many outstanding issues that warrant people's voices. For the NDP, the die has been cast. There will inevitably be greater engagement of the electoral majority in the application of ever-intensifying pressure for a return to some semblance of morality and decency in our institutions of governance. The ruling regime is moribund. The ruling regime is decadent. The ruling regime is devoid of so much as an understanding of morality, and hence today appears totally incapable of helping themselves out of the politically drunken stupor and political morass. Importantly, as has happened before, the ruling regime returns to the outdated reference to the world is watching us. The world has always been watching us. They watch in dismay the nulliprust of the Michelle Andrews case. They watch in awe the elections of 2015. They watch in awe how we have acted with the Lives to Live program after each disaster. They watch in horror as in Parliament, the government did not seem to think it necessary to provide accountability and transparency with regard to the expenditures on the Argyle International Airport. They watched in horror at a Minister of Government on the evening of the evacuation declaring, "This is not a drill, this is not a drill," and insisted on evacuation before entry into the shelter. Those people at the international level, including those of them who are here, watched in horror the clumsiness of our approach to addressing the trilogy of crises, dengue, COVID-19, and Mama Sufre. They are watching. They watched the political seesaw, the parliamentary seesaw on Tuesday, and how what passes for democracy works ULP style. They were probably thinking that the situation could have so escalated that we could have had the ignominy of our police officers throwing parliamentarians of the opposition side down the steps of the nation's legislature as was done before. Because above all, the rules of the institution are what is important to them. Morality, go hang yourself. They are today watching the rehabilitation process post-volcanic eruption. Yes, yes, the world is watching, but they are watching whatever they wish. The ULP does not determine what they watch, and it certainly does not determine how they analyze what they see. All that anyone can ever hope for is that they are ultimately committed to the pursuit of truth, justice, and morality. Enough said. Today, dear friends, the 15th day of May 2021 marks 5,244 days since the disappearance of SVG Air J8VX on November 19, 2006. The plane was piloted by Dominic Gonzalez and Rashid Ibrahim was on board, given a ride. They disappeared without a trace. Today, the 15th of May 2021 marks 3,934 days since the disappearance of another SVG Air aircraft, J8SXY. That disappeared on Thursday, the 5th of August 2010, piloted by Suresh Latra, called out for a mercy mission. I want to remind you, as always, that on the 19th of September 2008, Patricia Bowman lost her life in her car, crushed to death by debris from a collapsing wall of an individual or of a family. Somehow, her family has gotten lost in the melee. Somehow it was as if she had no family. So you're driving and somebody's private wall falls on your vehicle and you're crushed to death. There's no recompense. What a travesty. But that is life today in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Enough said. You've been listening to another edition of Nice Radio's Callaloo presentation, Just Another Look. Just Another Look is an innovative, exciting, albeit decidedly provocative and yes, certainly controversial socio-political analysis of issues of a local, regional, and international nature. Just Another Look is heard only on Nice Radio, first aired on Saturdays at 6 p.m., with repeat broadcast on Sundays at 9 p.m. Remember, you can always catch us on the World Wide Web, www.niceradio.info. You can catch us on Facebook and YouTube. I am, of course, Keith Joseph.
www.bayhillnews.net is the parent body of Bay Hill News Network. We do Facebook Live for church service, funeral service, lecture, sporting activity. For more, contact at bayhillnewsnetwork@gmail.com or call 1784-529-8340.
Great news! Spectra Plus is now rolling out internet and TV services in St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Yes, better service and better prices from the new and improved Spectra Plus. Spectra Plus TV plans for $59.99 per month, VAT included. Adult TV 3 channels plus $29.99. For more information, call 1784-534-2551 or 1784-532-2501. Fast, reliable broadband and television services for your home or business. Spectra Plus TV, internet, better. We at BayHillNews.net are doing our part in helping fans and followers of our network. For example, we went up to Sandy Bay and helped with the cleaning of houses inside, outside, and the roofs. We want to do more. We can do more if you help us to help others. Kindly make your donation to Noel and Marvin Thomas at 1-784-496-4805. That's 1-784-496-4805 or Montgomery Cupid at 1-784-529-8340. That's 1-784-529-8340. Thanks for your support. Ship your barrels and household effects to St. Vincent and the Grenadines with SVG Direct. Jumbo barrels $70, medium $60, and small $50. We ship anything, name it, we ship it. Vehicles and more. Local agent, Adams Customs and Shipping Agency, 3rd floor, Baines Building, Kingstown, SVG. Telephone 1784-458-1328. In Canada, contact Michael 647-569-3285. Jambi 647-657-7362. Remember, it's free pickup at your convenience 7 days per week anywhere in the Greater Toronto area with SVG Direct. Welcome to Nice International Group of Companies. We provide online shopping, air shipping to SVG and the entire Caribbean via Amerijet and FedEx, ocean shipping throughout the entire Caribbean, and door-to-door delivery from Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, and New York to SVG via air and sea. Locations Boston and New York, USA, and Camden Park, SVG. At Nice International, you are family and friend, not a customer. So contact us today. Nice International Logistics LLC for shipping, packaging, and moving. 2110 Newkirk Avenue, Apartment 6A, Brooklyn, New York. Telephone 1347-500-9142 or 1617-594-2283 or email NYEESINTSHIPPM@gmail.com. Remember, it's Nice International for shipping, packaging, and moving.
St. Vincent, my homeland.
On April the 9th, 2021, La Soufrière volcano in St. Vincent and the Grenadines violently erupted, and the words of Black Stallion came flowing through.
For we country nation, its darkest hour. So our people need us today more than ever. But in our fight to recover, if ever you feel to surrender, it have one little thing that I want you always remember.
My name is Jim Lewis, President of St. Vincent and the Grenadines Association, Toronto, Inc., and I encourage you to donate generously.
I love you, St. Vincent. Me sweet little island, St. Vincent.